What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be covering everything that we currently know about the balancing and matchmaking in Battlefield 2042 and whether or not there will be any skill-based matchmaking. Skill-based matchmaking, or better known as SBMM, has been a very controversial topic over the last few years, as many games out there, most notably Call of Duty, have definitely ramped up their SBMM, making the game feel much fairer for newer and less experienced players, while on the other side of that feeling much sweatier for pretty much anyone who has any sort of skill level. Now, I'm about to talk a bit about Call of Duty, which is obviously not why you clicked on this video, but I'm going to use it as a better way of explaining why I think SBMM is such an issue, so hear me out for just a minute. Personally, skill-based matchmaking has borderline ruined Call of Duty for me at this point, at least multiplayer anyway, as I do still love Warzone. I still enjoy jumping on Cold War every now and then just to sort of level up some guns for Warzone or something like that, but I could not tell you the last time I actually jumped on just because I felt like playing some COD. SBMM has pretty much sucked the fun out of that game for me, unfortunately, and the vast majority of the hardcore player base feels pretty much the exact same. Now, the unfortunate thing is that the hardcore player base that I mentioned probably only makes up about less than 5% of the actual player base, and when I say hardcore player base, I just mean those who watch Call of Duty content on YouTube and follow the game in regards to patch notes and stuff like that. That's honestly only about 1 to 5% of the actual player base, as most people who play video games could not give a shit about any of that other stuff. They just simply jump on for a bit of fun, play the game, and then get off and go and do something else. So those players likely wouldn't even know that SBMM is a thing. Now, you might be thinking that 1 to 5% sounds way too low, but take this as an example. All of the Warzone trailers on YouTube for each season only get about 200,000 to 500,000 views per video, which all show off the new content, and they're pretty decent to watch for anyone who enjoys the game, but there are 100 million active monthly players, so clearly not everyone is as hardcore as all of us probably think, because otherwise those trailers would all be getting like 10 to 20 million views each time, if even 20% of the player base were hardcore fans. So the fact that they're getting less than 500,000 views pretty much shows that not as many people actually pay attention to the game as we might think. Because of that, even though all the hardcore fans of the franchise are complaining to the devs to tone it down a bit and let the game just be casual again, it's barely making any noise, because that might only be like 1% of the entire player base. So in reality, it's the vast minority of people who don't want SBMM, while the other 99% don't seem to care and are fine with it. So in the devs' eyes, why would they change it for that 1%? Now, the long-winded point that I'm getting at is that SBMM is unfortunately a good thing for the large majority of the player base, in that those casual, less experienced players are just playing against players of their skill level, not getting shat on by the guys who just play it much more regularly. So instead of always going like 5 and 15 every game and getting sick of it after 2 months, they're actually sticking around and feeling like they're doing better than ever. From what Activision have said, SBMM seems to help massively with player retention, as in keeping those players who buy the game playing for a longer period of time over the lifespan of the game. And so to them, like I said, SBMM is probably the best thing that's ever happened to the game, because that 95 to 99% of the player base are playing it much more than ever. Now, anyway, how this relates to Battlefield is that I think it seems like the very large majority of the player base actually don't want SBMM, because all you see on Twitter or YouTube are people saying they don't want it, but in that same way as Call of Duty, that's probably only 1% of the actual player base of the game. The other 99% don't even know SBMM exists, so they're just not talking about it, nor would they probably talk about it, because they're just not quite as hardcore about the game as the rest of us are. Because of this, it does worry me a little bit that DICE may fold and fall into that SBMM way of matchmaking, since it's worked so well for player retention in Call of Duty, and they did also just hire a general manager who worked on Call of Duty for years, so he might even try to show them just how great it worked as well, and that definitely has me even more worried, to say the least. In the early reveal event for Battlefield 2042, Daniel Berlin did also touch on this as well, in that they've definitely tried to make the game a little bit more accessible and approachable, as it's obviously a pretty chaotic game with so many players, there's vehicles, the maps are huge, so they want to make the game much easier for those who are new to the game, which again does sound slightly worrying, as the best way to make a game easier for those who are new is simply to implement skill-based matchmaking. With that being said, he did follow that up by saying that they do still want there to be somewhat of a skill gap. For example, if you're really good and you found a weapon that you're really good with, or a specialist that you're really good with, then they do want that to work in your favor in terms of just being able to improve as you play and become a better player over time. So that does also kind of hint that maybe the SBMM won't be very strict if there is any. I'm not too sure exactly what he meant, but it definitely did put my mind at ease just a little bit, as everything he said before that sounded pretty much the complete opposite of that. Now, to add even more detail to this, I did actually ask Marie Buscard-Granlund about SBMM in my interview with her, and her word-for-word response was, "I don't have the exact details on that, but we are bringing in many different factors for how matchmaking works. where location and ping and so on are taken into account to make sure that the gameplay experience you get as a player is as fair as possible. That is the word-for-word response that she gave me, and on one hand, she did only mention location and ping, which is just how it has worked in all the previous games. You search for a game and the game puts you in a lobby that has the best ping, as well as some other factors like player count and all that type of stuff. So that could be a good sign, but then at the end, she also said to make sure the gameplay experience that you get as a player is as fair as possible, which unfortunately is skill-based matchmaking, as that is just the fairest way to do it, with everyone playing against players of their own skill level. So her response kind of gave me hope and also made me even more worried all at the same time. I'm not too sure how far to look into that response, as like I said, she did say that she doesn't have the exact details because she doesn't work on that area of the game, rather she's in charge of the specialist, so it's not at all a concrete answer or anything like that, but I thought it was a pretty interesting answer either way. Overall, from everything we've heard, it does sound a little bit worrying, as SBMM in Battlefield 2042 is definitely a possibility, but there are also some good signs as well, and honestly I'm personally still more on the side of expecting no SBMM just for a few short reasons. Number one is that I'm almost 100% certain that the server browser feature will be back once again, and if there is a server browser, I don't really see how SBMM can exist, since you can just pick and choose your own servers, so the game can't really make you play in a lobby of players all your own skill level if you can just choose the lobby anyway. Number two, with 128 player lobbies, even if there is SBMM, it's going to have to be pretty lenient so that the games don't take like 2 or 3 minutes to find. Just like in Warzone, how there is SBMM, but due to the 150 player count, they can't make it too strict, otherwise it will just take forever to find 150 players of your skill level who are all searching at the same time. Warzone lobbies do have SBMM like I said, but it's honestly super lenient for the most part, because you might have 10 players who are at the 0.3 KD level, and then there'll be like 5 guys at the top who are all like 3 or 4 KD players just cracked out of their mind, and then everyone in between is just a mix of different skill levels. So that makes me think that even if SBMM is in Battlefield 2042, it surely won't be very strict, which does make it a little bit better. Now, the third reason is that there is actually a form of SBMM in Battlefield already, which has been there for years now, and that is the auto team balancing feature, which essentially moves players from team to team depending on skill level and performance in the last few games in order to make the teams as even as possible. This is more what would probably be referred to as skill-based balancing rather than skill-based matchmaking, but it does all sort of come under the same umbrella, and because this is already a feature in the game, I wouldn't be surprised if this is just the sort of thing they're talking about rather than a traditional form of SBMM, and so once again that does kind of put my mind at ease a little bit in regards to the issue. At the end of the day, SBMM is definitely a possibility in Battlefield 2042 for the reasons that I mentioned earlier in the video. It helps with player retention and introducing new players to the franchise. The general manager of DICE worked on Call of Duty, so he would definitely know of its success, and for those reasons it could definitely be added. Despite that though, if I had to guess whether or not it will be there, and keep in mind this is just my opinion and definitely not a fact, but I personally don't see it being in the game, because with stuff like the server browser feature, huge lobbies, and just the fact that there is already a balancing feature in the game, I just think it would not really even be possible to add it without either taking out the server browser or adding huge wait times for games, which is just completely counterintuitive. So I am still feeling confident that it won't be in the game, at least definitely not as strict as Call of Duty, but at the end of the day we will just have to wait and see, and if we do hear more at EA Play or anything like that, then I will definitely follow up on this video, as it is a pretty big topic honestly, and it's something I'm personally pretty interested in, as I cannot stand strict SBMM. So if we hear more, you guys can expect to see a video on it here on the channel. That is going to do it for this one though guys. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, or whether or not you think it will be in the game, just judging off what you've heard. I am definitely keen to hear what the general consensus is from you guys down below. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you guys are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.